What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is TheUziGunner, bringing you all the very next episode of Trainer Cards, the show where I look at and present the draft careers of the coaches competing in this season of the WBE. I don't know why my accent just changed. Anyways, as far as today's episode goes, we're going to be taking a look at the brains behind everything happening in this season, who's also cemented himself as a draft league veteran. He is the coach of the Minnesota Vikavolt, Dan aka aDrive. So with the formalities out of the way, let's get this show on the road. Dan is a man who made his official draft league debut 4 years ago in the Season 3 of the GBA. Prior to that, he has had his fair share of shuffles in competitive Pokemon battling through laddering and shoddy battles, Pokemon Online, and now Pokemon Showdown. All that experience he was able to gather during that time paid him massive dividends and helped him break out in the very next season, helping him reach all the way to the finals. From way back then to now, he's competed in his fair share of leagues, which are the UCL, NPA, ABL, UBL, and now the WBE, leaving him with a total of 204 wins, good God almighty, and 84 losses. With a great winning percentage of 71%, he's been able to reach the playoffs a total of 23 times and has 3 championships under his belt, showing that he is always a solid contender for the leagues he's competing in. His preferred playstyle is bulky offense, and that very much can be seen in the 2 squads you see before you. The first team was drafted in the Season 5 of the GBA, with the latter being drafted in, you guessed it, this season of the WBE. Just from looking at it, you can see an exact pattern in regards to a main breaker, full turn core, hazard setting, speed tiers, and many more. From having this particular build, Dan more or less has free reign towards building the type of squads that would complement his way of playing, and by that, I mean making aggressive doubles and other forms of predictions. For situations where he does happen to mess up or get a form of prediction wrong, he would still have his bulky Pokemon to take those incoming hits and give him the scope to recover and get himself back into the game. Add that with his obvious Volturn to make predictions easier, he would then have his main hard-hitting Pokemon like Victini, and for this season, Kyurem Black, to continue instigating massive pressure on his opponents, giving them little to absolutely no scope to recover from it. That line of strategic thinking is, in my opinion, what makes him a massive threat as a draft battler. It is extremely important to have a team that complements that playstyle of the user, and for the most part, Dan is able to do just that. Throughout the many seasons he has competed in, Dan has been able to snag a lot of kills with a plethora of Pokemon. But if there's any particular one that easily takes the number 1 slot by miles, it'd have to be none other than his signature Pokemon, V-Drive aka Victini. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this renowned mythical Pokemon has managed to make a severe impact and name in draft format, mainly due to the severe amount of dividends it has paid for Dan. Being drafted a total of 5 times in different leagues, he has been able to get a total of 60 kills, which is absolutely insane. When you have one of the hardest hitting fire stabs, both on the physical and special side, I honestly can't say I'm surprised. It fit Dan's criteria almost perfectly in the sense that he would be able to abuse his Volturn core and be able to bring it out on his opponents when rocks were not set up on his side of the field, more or less giving him free reign towards essentially doing whatever it wanted. In the 5 times he drafted it, Dan has more or less abused whatever Victini was capable of, from Choice Scarf to Choice Band to Mixed Life Orb. The list is endless, really. Add that with its natural bulk, it is honestly self-explanatory at this point why it is such a great asset for any squad that ends up drafting it. Overall, Victini is beyond a shadow of a doubt the victory Pokemon for the now Minnesota Vikavolt. And now for the final segment of the video, let's talk about aDrive as a battler. Honestly speaking, this man has gone through a massively long journey to get to where he is right now. Despite having a rather awkward start in the Season 3 of the GBA, he beyond a shadow of a doubt made his mark in the very next season, winning 10 matches and losing only once before facing the now retired Mega Mogwai in the Season 4 finale. Unfortunately, despite setting himself up for a guaranteed victory, Dan choked massively by choosing to not taunt the opposing doublade, if that's how you properly pronounce it, and allowed it to set up sword stances, immediately costing him the game. After such a devastating loss, you'd think that it was all she wrote for him. Despite that, Dan used that experience to improve himself as a battler, which is why despite having a rather rough start in the season after, it came to an immediate halt as he stepped his game up big time and managed to, in poetic fashion might I add, win the championship gold against the now also retired coach of the San Francisco Arcaniners, George aka Skeptel MC. From that time frame to now, I'd say Dan's prediction skills, or rather his grasp of the player's psychology in matches, has vastly improved, which enables him to make predictions that have a very likely probability of actually working out, giving him the edge. His game plans usually revolve around trapping his opponents in a cycle and putting them on the defensive. Once he is able to pull that off in the initial stage of the battle, it more or less comes full circle, as he is then, with his prediction skills, able to dictate the pace of the match, and unless his opponents make adjustments to their plays in the middle of the match, cop the W. Now in reality, such a playstyle is honestly more than good enough to become a top tier contender, and Dan has beyond a shadow of a doubt shown just that. However, I personally feel that he relies too much on outplaying his opponents in the match rather than having the perfect build that outpreps his opponents and establishes backups for all scenarios possible, which can be a massive detriment for him at times. In fact, most of the clean losses he has suffered in his career so far have been through this particular case. Yes, he does one hell of a job at compensating for it with his playing ability, and that very much can be seen in matches that involves him facing Envy and more. However, if the opponent has a superior preparation, gets the lead right, and prevents Dan from initiating that cycle, that's when everything more or less starts to go downhill for him. Of course, his builds for the most matches are by no means lacking, as it fits his playstyle almost perfectly, which enables him to carry out his plans effectively. Having a squad that complements how you play is, in my opinion, the most important thing when drafting and playing, and in that regard, Dan surely has that on lock. And it shows too, because he is currently 5-0 in this season. Only time will tell if he truly will become the World Battle Entertainment Champion. So yeah, that, my friends, concludes this episode of Trainer Cards. I hope you all managed to find genuine enjoyment out of this, and if you did, feel free to drop a like on this video and let me know in the comment section down below what you think of aDrive as a battler. My name is TheUziGunner, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all on the flip side. Wish!